How's everybody doing this morning? Good. So it's an historic day, so many things going on, current and past. I do think we should take a moment to acknowledge the 24th day or anniversary where we commemorate the tragic loss and the horrific terrorist attack of 9/11 in New York and Pennsylvania and at the Pentagon. But today's an exciting day for us to be here today in what is nothing other than a huge success for Prince George's County, for the Office of the Attorney General Consumer Protection Division, and for the residents of Heather Hill Apartment Complex. I want to say good morning. Thanks to all of you for joining us. I want to thank the staff, the attorneys at the Consumer Protection Division and the Office of the Attorney General. And that's Assistant Attorney General Dawn Singleton and Seth Chrysler Smith, our Housing Unit Chief, Kira Wilpon Wellborn, and our Consumer Protection Division Deputy Chief, who you'll hear from, Karen Valentine. I also want to thank Prince George's County government for their work, fire inspectors, the team at the Department of Permitting, Inspection, and Enforcement, and the work that they do every day on behalf of the residents of Prince George's County to protect their health and safety. And of course, this wouldn't happen other than under the leadership of our new county executive, Aisha Braveboy, and County Executive Braveboy and I go back a long way. And so I'm looking forward to hearing her remarks this morning, and I want to thank her for her leadership. And I know that both in the county and at the state level, we have the shared value and belief that every Marylander deserves a safe place to call home. So we're here because families have been forced to live in conditions that no one should have to ever endure. A parent with a young child vulnerable to respiratory problems from the black mold growing throughout their apartment. Mushrooms literally growing out of the living room floor. Families huddling together in a bedroom when their heating system failed during the coldest week in January. The landlord's response? A threat of eviction for being late on the rent. These aren't just stories about poor conditions. These are stories about families who paid their rent every month while their children got sick and their safety was ignored. Today we're announcing that we've reached an $11 million settlement with the Heather Hill Property Company and Heather Hill Operating Company for violating consumer protection laws. And I want to highlight that this is the largest settlement involving renters and an apartment owner management company that has delivered restitution of this magnitude to renters. So we're really proud of the work, but not because of our ability to stand here today and tell you about the work, but we know the difference that this has made in the lives of those who rent at Heather Hill. This is the largest restitution that our division has ever obtained in a landlord-tenant case. In addition to the $11 million, we received $150,000 in community-wide restitution that will support similarly situated, impacted members of our community if they face similar situations. And of course, we recovered, as we always seek to do on behalf of the taxpayers of Maryland, $75,000 for the investigative costs of this action. This case should put every landlord on notice. You can't cash rent checks while your tenants live in unsafe conditions. Last November, we filed a lawsuit against the owners of this 459-unit apartment complex. These landlords broke the law, pure and simple. They collected rent for 25 months without holding the rental license required under Maryland law. That license isn't just paperwork. When landlords apply for a license, Prince George's County government conducts health and safety inspections to ensure apartments meet basic standards and that protect families. But it took the owner of Heather Hill 25 months to even apply for a license. While families paid rent month after month, they had to endure horrific living conditions. I mentioned mushrooms growing out of the floors, mice running throughout their kitchens, broken heating and air conditioning units, leaky roofs, malfunctioning appliances, inoperable fire safety systems. Because they didn't have a license, these landlords were able to get away with these code violations. When residents complained, the landlords neither fixed the apartments nor made them livable. Instead, they continued to charge rent, threatened late fees, and even tried to evict tenants from homes that were never even safe to begin with. All of these actions by Heather Hill were illegal. Our office couldn't let that stand. That's why we acted, so that tenants could get the relief they deserved. Karen will give details on the settlement, but I want to mention a few highlights. First, Heather Hill Apartments will return money directly to the pockets of current and former tenants who were forced to live in unlivable conditions. Second, eviction cases will be dismissed. And third, and here's something really important we believe for the family's future, we'll be working with them to help correct their credit records. For too long, tenants have been trapped by eviction filings and never should have happened in the first place. Now we're helping these families move forward without the cloud hanging over them. This case shows exactly why our consumer protection exists. These tenants tried normal channels to fix their problems, but they needed the state's help against landlords who ignored the law. Our consumer protection also works with our civil rights division, which just finished 3 major investigations protecting Marylanders from housing discrimination. All these actions show that housing is a priority for the Office of the Attorney General. We'll always fight for Marylanders and their right to keep a roof over their head that is not only affordable, but it is quality, it is habitable, it is livable for them and their families. So if you're a tenant facing similar unsafe conditions, don't suffer in silence. Contact our Consumer Protection Division. We are easily found on the internet. We are at oag.maryland.gov, or call us directly, because housing isn't just a business, it's about human dignity. And to any landlord cutting corners, we're watching. You can't ignore your legal obligations while families are paying the price. And with that, let me turn it over to Karen Valentine from our Consumer Protection Division.
Thank you, Attorney General Brown, and thank you all for joining us today. As Attorney General Brown said, I will be reviewing some of the details of the settlement. The settlement provides for restitution and injunctive relief, which will impact the public and more specifically the community in Prince George's County and tenants, current and former. This is a lot of information to relay to tenants, and it's very detailed, related to the restitution and the injunctive relief. Right now, I'm just going to cover a few of the highlights. For more detailed information, tenants can call our Consumer Protection Hotline at 410-528-8662. Again, 410-528-8662. The settlement provides for significant restitution, an amount over $11 million. It provides for debt forgiveness, credits for past payments, and cash payments to former tenants. I'm going to go through a few of the details related to that type of restitution. For current and former tenants, Heather Hill cannot seek to collect any unpaid amounts that they received before January 13th, 2025, which is when they got their license. and that amount is over $8.8 million. Now these families can move forward without the cloud of Heather Hill trying to seek that money hanging over their heads. Next, the settlement provides for over $8.6 million in money to consumers in the form of credit. I'm sorry, $2.6 million. So it provides for over $2.6 million in money to consumers in the form of credits. Current tenants at Heather Hill will receive a dollar-for-dollar credit for past payments that they made during the unlicensed period to diminish or wipe out unpaid rent that tenants have incurred since the complex obtained their license. This dollar-for-dollar credit is significant because for those tenants who don't owe rent, the pending failure to pay rent actions against them will be dismissed. And that's over 200 failure to pay rent actions that should be dismissed. And tenants that paid significant amounts of money during the unlicensed period and continue to pay their rent to Heather Hill going forward will receive monthly credits at the time they make payments until the amount of their full credit is completely used up. Further, former tenants will receive cash based on a portion of the payments those tenants made during the period that Heather Hill failed to have a license. Former tenants can expect to receive checks in the mail within the next 6 months. And the cash payments to former tenants amounts to over $250,000. Just as important as restitution is the injunctive relief that we received to prevent Heather Hill from engaging in the conduct in the future. While there are a lot of details in the settlement agreement, I'm going to cover 4 points today. First, the settlement requires that Heather Hill follow the law and requires that Heather Hill not engage in unfair, deceptive, or abusive trade practices. And basically, this means that they can't make misleading statements and they have to tell tenants and consumers any information that is important to the consumer's decision-making. Second, Heather Hill is prohibited from offering to rent or lease a property, a complex of this size, unless they hold a valid rental license. And they can't file summary ejection actions in court unless they hold a license. After the division brought its action, Heather Hill addressed issues at the complex, including making the investments needed to resolve the fire code violations that led to their suspension. And ultimately, they obtained a rental license on January 13th, 2025. And that license expires on January 13th, 2027. As long as a property owner holds a valid rental license, tenants can be subject to eviction proceedings if they fail to pay their rent on time. Third, Heather Hill is prohibited from reporting to any credit reporting agency or future landlord any amounts unpaid during the unlicensed period, the period before January 13th, 2025, and is required to report to credit reporting agencies that any previously reported unpaid amounts from that period before January 13th, 2025 is satisfied. So Heather Hill is being required to correct the credit reporting to the credit reporting bureaus. This is a big deal, in mitigating the unwarranted negative impact on these tenants' credit and their ability to get housing in the future. Finally, Heather Hill is required to dismiss summary ejection actions filed against tenants in May of 2025, where there was no rent due, and is required to request the court to remove from public inspection summary ejection complaints that have been dismissed. For too long, tenants have been trapped by eviction filings that never should have happened in the first place. Again, this is a big deal because it mitigates the unwarranted negative impact on the tenant's ability to get housing. In summary, after we filed the case, Heather Hill resolved the fire code violations and they got their license. We got over $11 million in restitution. We got all the unpaid rent that Heather Hill sought before January 13th, 2025 forgiven, which we hope reduces stress that tenants have been feeling. We got Heather Hill to give tenants credits and cash payments and to dismiss eviction actions. And we got them to agree not to say anything negative about tenants to future landlords and in their credit reporting related to those unlicensed periods. Again, for tenants, if any tenants, current or former, have questions, they can call our consumer hotline at 410-528-8662. And at this time, I will turn the podium back over to Attorney General Brown. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Karen, very much. I'm going to bring to the podium my good friend, our county executive, and I recall the days when we served together in Annapolis, and housing issues, both quality housing, affordable housing issues, have always been a focus of Aisha Brayboy, and she continues to bring that priority to her current position as our county executive. Aisha.
Thank you so much, Mr. Attorney General. Thank you and your entire team. This is what justice looks like. This is what justice looks like. We have a dynamic Attorney General. We have a compassionate Office of the Attorney General, and they are focused on justice for our communities, compassionate justice for our communities. And so we will continue to work with the Consumer Protection Division to ensure that all renters and that all people are treated with dignity and respect. I want to commend the work of the Department of Permitting, Inspection, and Enforcement. Thank you for working with the Attorney General's office on this very important landmark case in our state. Dawit Abraham, our Director of DPI, is here, along with Lamont Hinton, our Deputy Director. I also want to thank Mary Giles, as well as Lori Paris for their roles. We have a new Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Government Infrastructure, Kevin Stephen. Thank you for your guidance and your leadership. Look, the Attorney General and his team said it all, so I won't go through all of the issues that went on at Heather Hills. But the Prince George's County Code requires owners of multifamily unit communities to obtain a rental license from the Department of DPI. One advantage of a licensing requirement is that it ensures that landlords proactively address any issues and problems at their property without requiring tenants to first complain, contact the county inspection department, or file an escrow action. In its charging document, the division alleged for over 2 years Heather Hills operated Heather Hills Apartments without the required housing license. During that time, there were, of course, many violations. And so what I wanted to just reiterate by saying that is that we know that Heather Hills is likely not the only entity that violated these rules. Just know that DPI is focused on ensuring that there's quality of life for all people in Prince George's County, including those who are renters. We must have housing options in Prince George's County, and some people will choose to rent, but that choice shouldn't mean that they have, a poor quality of life or of living. And so what we understand is that we have to hold our landlords accountable, and DPI and my administration is committed to doing that. I want to thank again our Attorney General. This is historic, over an $11 million settlement. That's huge. That says that we are valued here in Prince George's County, that our lives mean something, that every person means something. And so, Mr. Attorney General, I just want to say thank you for that. That helps as we, unfortunately, are looking at an America that for some, they wonder if they're being heard, if they're being seen. And Mr. Attorney General, you see us, and we appreciate that. I know that someone who's very close to this issue is here with us today. He represents the area in which Heather Hills is located, and that is the chair of our council, our good friend, Ed Burrows. Chairman Burrows.
Thank you, Madam County Executive, and thank you, Mr. Attorney General, to you and your entire team. This is a big day for the people of Prince George's County. I represent Heather Hill Apartments, and I went there last year. And when I first arrived, I thought I was meeting with 5 residents. But by the time I left, they heard that I was there, and about 40 people came out. And they all had a list of issues. One of the issues that I will never forget was a lady who was 8 months pregnant with mold all throughout her apartment building. And we hear a lot of things, and so I like to make sure that what I'm being told is accurate. So I ended up going to her apartment, and I walked in with her and her husband, and I could not believe what I saw. I was only there for less than 5 minutes, but by the time I got to my car, I had to take my inhaler so many times. And in this case, they wanted to leave. They wanted to move out. And the apartment complex told them that if they did, they would be breaking their lease and there would be all these penalties. And so they were trapped. And so I just want to say on behalf of all of those residents whose livelihoods and health and safety and well-being were on the line, thank you for fighting for them. These are people who did not expect this type of response, frankly, but what you've shown is that you're terribly effective and that you care about the people of Prince George's County, the most vulnerable. So thank you, Madam County Executive, for your partnership with the Attorney General that has spanned it for decades. And thank you, Mr. Attorney General, to you and your entire team for holding this landlord accountable and sending a message throughout all of Maryland, especially Prince George's County, that this will not be tolerated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to everyone who presented this morning. We'll open up to questions. Yes, and just identify yourself, please.
County executive is also referencing and referring that other apartment complexes in Prince George's County may also be engaging in this type of behavior. Have you all gotten any leads? Have you heard from anybody else? Just how widespread of an issue could this be for renters in Prince George's County? Are you concerned that there are other complexes that are engaging in this kind of behavior?
Let me answer it. without, confirming or denying any investigations, housing is a top priority for Consumer Protection Division. And you may recall, on the eve of my assuming office, the Office of the Attorney General, Consumer Protection Division closed a huge settlement, different issues, but involving the same types of deplorable conditions with Westminster Management, 5 different properties, I think 5,000 units under management. This is 10% of that number. But I share that only to say that there are countless Marylanders, not just in Prince George's County, who suffer from landlords who refuse to or invest in the property, who neglect the property. And we're here to say we're going to hold you accountable. We're going to marshal our resources, working with our local partners, as we did here in Prince George's County, to hold you accountable. Regardless of whether you're a homeowner or a renter, you should not have to live in substandard conditions. And when you do it in that landlord-tenant content, there are a lot of rights available to tenants, but as I think Mr. Burrows, Chairman Burrows mentioned, often they feel trapped. They need the state. They need the county to come in and assist. So where it exists, and it does exist throughout Prince George's County, throughout Maryland, we are on watch. We will conduct the necessary investigations, and we will take whatever enforcement actions those investigations lead to.
Landlord, apartment owner were intentional? In other words, did they allow conditions to deteriorate because people weren't paying rent and it just sort of ratcheted up? Did they intentionally not have a license so they wouldn't be inspected?
I can't say their intentions or their motives, but I can tell you that they owned the property for close to 3 years without a license. It is hard for me to imagine a management company, an owner of a multi-million-dollar complex, unaware of the requirement to obtain a license and all of the health and safety inspections that accompany that license. So I can't speak to their intention, but I can tell you that they failed to receive a license. When violations were brought to their attention by DPI, by the fire inspector, they either didn't move or were slow to move. And then finally, we came in, teamed up with local government, and took action with the tool of the Consumer Protection Division and the Debt Collection Act.
For who hear this story and say, I got mold, I got mushrooms, what should they do? And I think we talked about this last November as well. You got to keep paying your rent, right? Or you have to put it in. What should someone that's got an issue do with regard to their monthly rent payment?
Sure. I'm not providing legal advice to the public, but there are some things. First of all, you make sure you do notify your landlord. You want to be on record that you've notified your landlord. You can certainly bring it to the attention of DPI, which you ought to do. Also, depending on the nature of your complaint and concern, you should consider an escrow action. When there is a landlord who's unlicensed, under Maryland law, they cannot collect rent. So you should consider certainly an escrow action, so that if you prevail, you will keep the money. If you don't, then you will pay it to the landlord.
What do you do with your rent?
If your landlord is not licensed, you do not need to pay rent. Okay, but there are certain things you should do other than just stop paying rent, and consult an attorney. And they will advise you on the things that you ought to do. But first and foremost, bring it to the attention of the landlord. Make them aware. Put them on notice. Talk to DPI, and then, of course, the Office of the Attorney General, our Consumer Protection Division. We've got mediation units. We have teams that specialize in housing. Our goal is to sort of mediate through these issues, get to a good place for everyone. And when that's not possible, we will bring an enforcement action. Did anyone want to add to that?
Next question.
You said that Vanderbilt received a license this January after making changes, resolving some issues. Can you say, have they resolved all the issues that were listed out in the initial complaint?
So the health, safety, and fire standards to receive a license effective January 13th, 2025. And it is our understanding that in the last 12 months, they've invested roughly $2 million in the property. I'm not the authority on that. You'd have to consult them. It's our understanding they've invested $2 million in the property. They've had exterminators come through. We've heard that from some of the renters at Heather Hill. So it appears as if they are making the investments, complying with the health, safety, and fire inspection, certainly as of January 13th when they received the license.
Just a follow-up. Can you speak to whether any of the tenants have sick or substantial injuries as a result?
Can we speak to that? I will say this. There is a private class action that has been filed against Heather Hill. And you can certainly go to MDEC and look at the complaint. And I think you'll find in that complaint there are claims regarding health issues and damages, relief requested for damages due to health conditions. But I would refer you to that complaint.
Okay, any other questions? Good to go. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, everybody.